Let's see Ralph Lauren's take on an elixir. So let's review Ralph Club's elixir now. Yo, what's up guys? Hunter here and welcome back to the channel where I upload weekly fragrance videos, so you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future content, and be sure to check me out over on my Instagram page. But today guys, we are reviewing a Ralph Lauren fragrance, which honestly, I don't believe I've reviewed many from this brand just because most of them don't really excite me that much. But when it comes to an elixir flanker, I always am pretty curious on how they do them. Of course, elixir is like the new trend in perfumery within the last couple of years, and it really doesn't necessarily mean anything in particular, just something a little bit strong, maybe a little bit more expensive smelling, etc. And I'm very curious about this one guys, and I actually found this one. The only reason I picked it up is because I actually found this one over at Marshall's for around $60, which I thought for an elixir that is pretty reasonable, so I snatched it up right away. And I do also own the original Ralph's Club in the EDP, I believe, which was a decent kind of designer crowd-pleasing fragrance, but man, the elixir does blow it out of the water, so I'm so excited to be reviewing it today. So let's go with some information now. This was launched in 2023, so it is a few years old at the time of this recording, and also not the newest flanker from Ralph's Club because they have so many. They have the original EDP, they came out with the Parfum, then Elixir, and then they also recently came out with an EDT version. And between me and you, I'm not really interested in any of those other flankers besides, of course, the original and the Elixir. For the retail price, only size this one comes in, which is 75 ml, will set you back $140, but I believe you can find these on discounters for a much more reasonable price. But honestly, even at retail, when it comes to an elixir flanker, that's not really that bad, because when you think of other elixirs like Sauvage, Elixir, that's like $250. But still guys, I found mine for $60 at Marshall's, which honestly you really can't beat. The concentration is of course the highest concentration, which is an extrait de parfum, which you kind of expect with elixir flankers for them to be very powerful. That's got another whole model behind them. So you are getting a very, very highly concentrated fragrance with this. The perfumer is also one of my favorite perfumers of all time, Dominic Ropion, who is a master perfumer. So when I also saw he created Ralph Club Elixir, I was very interested because he has a huge resume of some of the finest niche fragrances in the game. One that comes to my mind is Promise by Frederick Malle right over there, which you might see. So of course, we'll see if Dominic did a good job with Ralph's Club Elixir. All that information out of the way, let's get the packaging and presentation you get with this one now. All right, take a look at the box, which is kind of a basic box, not gonna lie, but it does look aesthetically pleasing. Of course, you kind of have this carbon fiber layout on the front with the silver plaque, Ralph Lauren Elixir. On the bottom, you will find your barcode as well as some information to authenticate your product to see when it was produced, and your barcode right there on the back. And then you just have RL Elixir on the top. And yeah, like I said, this is a basic cardboard box. Let's look at the bottle now. All right, take a look at the bottle, which is different to the box because this actually feels high quality with this heavy glass right here. On the front, you have this silver indented plaque with Ralph's Club Elixir. On the bottom, you have your sticker with your batch code and a little bit of information. Nothing on the back besides Ralph Lauren around the collar on both sides with the R logo on top, and it does click open like so, which I really like with the atomizer, and RL indented on top, which is a nice touch, guys. So that is the bottle presentation. In the top, you have cardamom, grapefruit, and mandarin. In the mid, you have orris, lavender, sage, and geranium. And in the base, you have leather, olibanum, patchouli, and balsam fir. And this will be classified as a spicy woody. So let's spray this and test out these atomizers. Decent atomizer, which is not pressurized, but it actually does spray a lot of juice. So let's go ahead and remind myself of Ralph's Club Elixir now. So right away, this is an extremely seductive and spicy fragrance, primarily from the cardamom, which would be considered one of the sexiest spices in perfumery, mixed together with one of my favorite kind of fruity citrus notes, which is a grapefruit, guys. You get a heavy dose of the cardamom and grapefruit combination, and the grapefruit does bring off this kind of bitter tartness about it, a little bit bright, but man, that combination in the opening is to die for. Very sexy and seductive opening with Ralph's Club Elixir. But you make your way into the mid, which does come pretty quick. You are going to get this dominant orris note, which gives off this earthy kind of powdery lipsticky vibe. And it's kind of funny because most elixirs seem to be heavy on that iris or orris note, which I can see why, because iris or orris does give off a very kind of premium, high quality scent. And I kind of prefer orris over iris because it is a little bit more earthy rather than like powdery and lipsticky, but you are still going to get that kind of makeup-y, lipsticky vibe in the mid. It's not so much where I can see a lot of people being thrown off by it. And alongside the orris, you are going to get a heavy dose of this aromatic lavender, which you also find in the original Ralph's Club, which is heavy on the aromatic touches. But I will say, man, the mid of this stuff smells so expensive. But like I said, it does come very quick. That orris starts to peek through alongside the cardamom and grapefruit within after maybe a few minutes. So the orris is one of the most dominant notes throughout the entire scent profile. Then finally in the base, you are going to get this very rugged, dark leather note, which is a little bit animalic as well, mixed together with this kind of warm, smoky, resinous alabama note and this earthy green patchouli. Honestly, this is a very complex fragrance that does change quite a bit from the opening, mid, and base. And I mean, at that price, you would expect something a little bit more complex and has more character to it, which you absolutely get with Ralph's Club Elixir. This is without a doubt one of the higher quality designer fragrances I've smelled, and almost smells like something that should be niche. For the best seasons to rock Ralph's Club Elixir is primarily going to be the spring, fall, and winter time, just because this stuff is very deep and dense. There's nothing kind of aquatic, nothing very bright about it either. I mean, you do have the grapefruit, but it's more so like a bitter tart grapefruit, and the other notes do absolutely take over that as well. So primarily the colder weather. If you wanted something for the warmer weather, probably get the original Ralph's Club or maybe even Ralph's Club EDT, which will be a fresher take on this. When it comes to occasion, I personally think this leans more on the formal side rather than casual side, just because it smells very expensive, high quality, and extremely elegant. That's also most of the time the case with Elixir flankers. They usually lean more formal rather than like fun, outgoing, and playful, and it's no different with this particular one. But doesn't mean if you wanted to dress it down, you could, because I do that all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes when you're wearing like a t-shirt or a hoodie, you still want to smell expensive and rich, and this will absolutely give you that image. When it comes to gender, this is of course targeted towards the men out there, and I will say it definitely is a masculine leaning fragrance despite that kind of powdery, lipsticky orris note. Thankfully though, that note does come across a little bit more earthy, which makes it more masculine. Plus every other thing about this one, the spices, that cardamom, the grapefruit, the aromatic touches, that dark rugged leather note, there's nothing really feminine about this whatsoever. So for the guys out there, this is of course going to be for you 100%. I also believe Ralph Lauren just launched another elixir for women, which was Romance Elixir. So for the ladies out there, maybe check that one out. When it comes to age group, it kind of goes along with every single thing I'm saying in this review as well, because it is a more mature leaning fragrance. There's nothing really youthful or juvenile about this at all. It doesn't really scream teenager fragrance by any means. It actually smells pretty mature, to be honest, like somebody 30s and up would, I think, rock this one the absolute best. Plus a name like Ralph's Club as well kind of leans more so on the mature side, maybe chilling at like a cigar lounge, etc. So I think this is gonna be more so for the mature guys out there that's looking for a sexy, seductive fragrance that they could make even a signature scent if they really wanted to. I just don't really picture somebody in their late teens, maybe even early 20s, really enjoying this one as somebody a little bit older would. Unless you are somebody a little bit younger that wants something that smells a little bit more mature, you don't really want something sweet and playful, and you want like a nice aromatic, leathery, earthy fragrance, and you could check it out as well. There's no age group on each particular fragrance. I just try to paint you guys the absolute best picture in these reviews, which is more on the mature side with the Elixir. Heck, I even think Ralph's Club, the original, is more on the mature side for being a designer fragrance, but still way more youthful than this one. So wrapping the review off, talking on the performance you should expect from this if you do happen to get a bottle, guys. Luckily, you are going to get above average performance, and when it comes to an Elixir flanker, I do have high expectations for them, and this one did somewhat live up to that expectation, because I did get around 12 hours of very good longevity, maybe even a little bit more than 12 hours on skin even. And if you apply your clothes, this will last maybe a few days and maybe even like 2 washes in the wash machine to get it completely out. So it is a very strong, potent fragrance, no doubt, and lives up to that Elixir name, which sometimes, as we know, isn't always the case. So Ralph Lauren did surprise me with the longevity. However, when it comes to the projection, it wasn't above average. I got about average projection from it. It's not something that absolutely screams off the skin where everybody can smell it. But for their credit, guys, most of the time when you have a higher concentrated fragrance, it projects a little bit less than something like an eau de cologne or an eau de toilette, because if you don't know already, the alcohol concentration is what makes a fragrance actually push off of the skin And when you put more perfume oils in it, the less alcohol concentration is inside of it. That isn't always the case, but most of the time that is how it works, and it definitely works in here. So you always gotta have some kind of trade-off at the end of the day. But to let you know though, even if you have an eau de cologne that projects like beast mode, it usually only projects for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then after that, it completely like disappears. So no complaints at all. I kind of expected the projection to be a little bit more moderate rather than beast. Thankfully, it's not an intimate projector, so people will still detect it, and the longevity is very, very solid. But that's gonna do it for my review of Ralph's Club Elixir. Let me know down below if you guys have tried anything from this line and which is your favorite, because I believe they have 4 now at the time of this recording. But from the 2 I own, I absolutely love the Elixir, and I think it is the best one. Besides that, leave a like, subscribe below if you haven't already, and of course, I'll catch all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.